You're listening to the Writer's Block Podcast with L.A. Wade. Hey, welcome to the show, Andrea Lewis. How you doing today?
Very good. How are you?
You know, I'm feeling very grateful that you want to come and share with me. I love that we have the same mission. Well, may not have the same mission, but I have a mission of wanting to normalize vulnerability. I want to expand empathy and compassion, especially for those of us with mental health concerns that are in the creative space.
Absolutely.
And I think that talking to creatives, and I'm really expanding this idea of creatives because, you don't have to be an actor or a director or a writer specifically. We create our lives all the time.
That's cute.
There are characters and plots and all of those different things that take place. And so I thought, let me get I'm selfish and I want to have some help and not always pay for my own therapy. So smarter than we
Let me
think.
do your podcast. That's free therapy.
Exactly. But people are smarter than they think. And I believe that the guests that I'm going to interview, like yourself, have so many different skills that you've utilized in your own life in order to help you remove the blocks in your life. So with that, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got to be Andrea Lewis.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm like, how did I? Well, yeah, I'm an actress. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a creator. That's how I typically introduce myself to people because I do a few things. It's like I like I like entertainment. So it's like I could do an event, I could do a narrative, I could do so many different things, but ultimately I'm a creator. And they all kind of go into the same space of storytelling. And so yeah, that's why I'm like I like to put them all under that umbrella because I think it covers a lot of things and you don't have to necessarily explain it like you said. You don't have to explain it, but it also is good for conversation. If somebody does tell you that they're a creator, you can be like, "How? Why? What do you mean?" And they can kind of get into their journey a little bit, which is fun, depending on what you want to talk about. Yeah. But I'm like,
In the spirit of that.
yeah, well, I'm thinking about how I got to here. I don't know. I guess it's like just growth and life. And I don't know if I think just like what you're saying, like if you have a mission, you probably have always seen yourself in a certain light and just kind of doing work to get to that version of yourself and get there. And then you say, okay, there's another version and I just got to keep going until I find that version of me, or to like connect with them authentically and feel like I'm already, I'm that girl. That's basically what I think it is.
I love that. What would you say are some of the things that you have created that you're most proud of?
Oh, you know what? I'm honestly proud of everything that I create because I think everything is hard. I started in my creation journey. I mean, I grew up as an actress, and so I grew up in TV and film, and so I always I was very privileged to be able to be on set and to see creators, see like a crew and a director and a camera and all these things coming to life from a very young age. So I got to have a more expanded imagination in terms of where I could see myself heading. And my parents really encouraged the arts when I was growing up. So it was like I did everything, and they took it as serious as I took it. So I was very serious as a kid, very serious kid, very like very frustrated that I wasn't an adult kind of kid. And like so my parents took me very seriously. Like if I said I wanted to sing, they took singing seriously. If I wanted to act, they took acting seriously. And if I wanted to do business, they took business seriously. So it's like I could say probably my first understanding of my overall self was, this is very wild, but when I was on Degrassi and I was graduated from high school, but I wasn't going to be going to college. I knew this, really because I just was still in the midst of my career. I really wanted to pursue where I was at, but I had like time off, and I started a background agency.
No way. I didn't know that about you.
I don't know why I did that. I can't remember the motive, like at all. But at the time, Mean Girls was filming in Toronto. Queer as Folk was filming in Toronto. All these shows were filming in Toronto, and I just decided that I wanted to do this. And I sent everybody I knew set. Like every single person went to these sets at some point because I had this.
Amazing.
But it was probably my first understanding in terms of my own entrepreneurship and um and my own creative, because it didn't
Mhm.
feel weird to me to do it. It didn't, and I was like a tiny business lady. I was like always on my computer. I was like at the movies and then had to leave because now I had to like get people to say, I was like very crazy. But
I love
my
it.
parents didn't even bat an eye. They thought nothing of it. They were like, "Cool, what do we got to sign up? What do we have to do to help you?"
What amazing parents you have. Oh, man.
Very strange.
You know, you said two things that are really interesting to me in terms of like writer's block, so to
Yeah,
speak, is
yeah,
imagination and like the environment that you're
yeah,
in and how that inspired
yeah.
you, but also having that support system.
Yes.
Like, how important was your imagination and that support system to removing the blocks? It seems like you didn't even grow up with
Yeah,
them.
no, I was pretty lucky that like I was always a daydreamer, and my mom like kind of let me be that. Like where it's like I even have pictures as from a kid of myself just like in the photo daydreaming because I was like frequently in my own head.
Oh,
And yeah, and I think my parents just kind of saw it as that's just how I was versus like, oh, she's distracted or she needs to be like get out of the clouds kind of thing. And yeah, now when I say this out loud as an adult, I do like that's why I say I was very privileged in the sense of that I didn't struggle in my desire to be in the art because everything around me championed that. And so from a
exactly.
young, like I said, I started acting as a young age, but even in that, the people around me like described me as such. Like even in my elementary school, my teachers like described me as an actress, described me as a singer, described me as somebody in the art. So I
Ah,
now, as an adult, really think about that kind of stuff, like the titles you're put on, that are put onto you, like all of your life.
yes,
Oh, talkative or bad, or these titles that kind of just like stick on you. And I was
right.
very lucky that like the titles that were put onto me um, encouraged my overall ambitions. And
Mhm.
so I don't know if I ever had I always tell people, I'm like, I don't know if it's like the chicken or the egg. I don't think I had another mission. I don't think I had anything else I ever really truly would want to do or saw myself doing,
Yes.
but I was just encouraged. Like my environment, getting I got into acting very easy, and then being in an environment where everybody just like labeled me as such and said that's what she does, that's who she is. And so all my life the pursuit of things that didn't seem normal, like deciding, oh, I want my friends to be on set, I'm going to create an agency and send them onto the set. I'm going to
Right.
I'm going to write something, I'm going to film something. No one thought it was weird. Everybody was like, "Yeah, that's what she does." So, uh, she
Wow. That's like the universe just coming to your aid saying, "I'm this. I believe that I'm this,"
yeah.
and then everything opened up to give it to you.
Yeah, pretty much in the sense of, yeah, and like, I grew up first generation. My mom's from Jamaica, my dad's from St. Vincent, and neither of them were in the arts or entertainment, but
Wow.
they just kinda like I said, I think they just saw me as this, and so it wasn't weird
I love
or
that.
strange, or there wasn't like an encouragement of something else. It was just kind of like this what do we have to do? How do we problem solve? So who do we have to meet? Where do we have to go? When I was 18, I wanted to move to LA, and um I don't even know if my parents really gave me any pushback. My mom always says like if she was here she'd be like, "Oh, well, I wasn't so sure about it." They gave me no pushback. They drove me to LA. We
Oh,
lived in LA. So
yeah.
that was where I say, like, I just was very lucky in that way that the thing I always wanted to do, everybody told me I could do it. And so the pursuit of
Yeah.
it, the difficulties, the challenges didn't feel like challenges. It just felt like more like I have to problem solve here and have
Right.
to just kind of figure out how to get around the things that weren't not necessarily working in your pursuit because
Right.
that's just natural. That's what's going to happen. Yeah.
Exactly. Did you just say that your mom is no longer
No,
here?
my mom is here. My dad is not here. My mom is here though. Yeah.
Your dad is not here. So I was just gonna say, how do you continue where they left off for yourself in what it was that that parent gave to you?
Hmm. No, my dad died, it's gonna be 3 years ago now, and,
Oh,
um
wow, so sorry.
it's okay, and yeah, I think about him all the time. I think about him in my pursuit all the time, mainly because my dad liked seeing me pursue. So, I think
Yeah,
about it more like that, just, um yeah, I think I wish there's some things that I've gotten to experience that I wish, oh, my dad was here, that he could see it too, that he could experience it as well, because that's the things that your parents, you know, love of,
yeah.
I mean, everybody loves this. I'm always encouraging my friends. If I get a free hotel, I encourage somebody to come and join me. Like, if I have per diem, come. Like, I have we can eat
Yeah.
free. Come on, everybody. If and
You're very open. I love your Instagram page. What is your Instagram
at
again
Andrea
for
Lewis.
people to know? Man, that thing is so inspiring in terms of like what a life well lived should
Oh,
look like.
good.
That's what I get when I, oh, it's so great. You got to go check out her
Oh,
Instagram. It's
good.
so
I'm
awesome.
glad.
You always have something new that you're doing. And like I said, it has purpose without being overly purposey. You know, like the Black Beauty effect.
Mhm,
It's just who you
mhm,
are.
mhm.
You know what I mean? These are one, and I think we're actually going to be in a film festival together,
Oh,
the Pan
team up.
African Film Festival.
Yeah. Yay.
Yeah, I'm so happy that more people are going to get a chance to see that work. It's so
Yeah.
powerful on Netflix, and
Thank
congratulations to
you.
you. That's actually when I met you with Olanike brought me to the Shea
Yes.
Moisture thing
Yes.
just before it
Yeah.
revealed, and I saw
Yeah.
you, and it made me when I met you, it felt like I knew you.
Oh,
And I think that that's just how people respond to you. You have this light and you're very welcoming. And so that success, you're a master manifester. And I wish this continuously for your
Oh,
life
thank
because
you.
you do it so well.
Thank
Now, I'm going to transition a little bit and have a little
Go
fun.
on.
I like to play a little game called Would You Rather?
Mm,
And so I'm going to ask you a couple of questions of what you would rather.
okay.
Ready? Okay. Would you rather have an unlimited supply of inspiration but no time to write, or plenty of time to write but struggle with writer's block?
I have probably an unlimited supply of inspiration, but no time to write. That's me right now. That's currently. It's me living my actual
That's
life.
the question. Okay. Would you rather write a character loosely based on your life or a character completely different from you?
Oh, that's hard. It's easy to
Yeah,
write
because you're pretty
technically.
awesome.
Oh, it's easy to write technically loosely based on your life if because life can be very inspiring. It's easy to do that, but it's also hard to capture sometimes the theme or the thing that's really inspiring the loosely based story. Sometimes it's hard to capture.
Yes,
Um, so maybe completely different. Actually, I'd like something completely different. Yeah.
I like it. Okay, this one might throw you. Would you rather babysit the gremlins or the minions?
Oh, the Minions, the Gremlins, I'd be petrified. I think that's, easily one of the scariest movies, in concept, I'm like, "That is a horrifying film." A
Right?
key thing
Your pet turns into
yeah,
Cujo
put it into water,
and
and
multiplies.
now it's multiplying and smoking cigarettes. It's like, "Are you kidding me?" That no, no, oh my gosh, no. So definitely the Minions,
Oh my
handle
goodness. That is too funny.
that.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask you other would you rathers, but I'm going to leave it here and get into 11 very important questions that I definitely
Let's
want
hit
you
it,
to
let's
get
do
to.
it.
Okay. So you kind of got into it a little bit, but who were the main characters in your life as you grew up, and what role did they help play in helping you get you to become who you are? I think you kind of answered that with your parents,
Yeah.
unless there's other characters that you want
You know
to
what? There's so
pinpoint.
many. That's the thing. I'm like, my mom is obviously incredibly instrumental in my life and in my pursuit. My parents in general, just in terms of um the my parents are very fun. I got the fun stuff of my parents in terms of life.
Yeah,
I got that from my parents. But at the same time, um yeah, I'm trying to really think. I'll say I've had so many. I've had so many people who it depends on the phase that I'm in terms of characters because when I was a little girl, I
Mhm.
had a teacher named Miss Wright, and I ended up having her in grade 2 and in grade 4, and she was, like, very instrumental for me in, pursuing the arts. Like, she'd let me kinda do anything. She
Mhm.
just was very free in this way, but
Yeah.
I've had many Miss Wrights in my life. Like, I had a vocal
Mm.
coach named Doc Holliday. I always tell people he changed my life because, um, at the time when I was working with him, I had a lot of insecurities and just fears and worries, and he had said to me, "You have all of the talent. I'm not sure if you have the mentality." It changed my
Oh, wow.
whole entire life in that
Yeah.
mainly because I was so used to people kind of being like when you're pursuing the arts, you meet a lot of haters. You meet so many people who try to tell you, "Oh, you're not good enough. You don't have the talent. You don't have this. You don't have that." And so for somebody to kind of more be like, "No, I think you have all the ability, but I don't know because you're getting your head
Mhm.
about this, you're getting your head about that. You're not willing to work for this. You're too afraid to compete with that." It
Interesting.
changed my whole entire perspective, and so I'm like, he was a character in my life that, like, just, I just loved. He
I
like,
love
yeah,
that.
he was like, and my best way to describe him, he was like a jive turkey. He was, like, old school. He cursed all the time. He could sing and play anything, but at the same time, he cared about you. So he would be like, what are you eating? Are you getting, like, a full balance of, like, vegetables?" And, like, he just was very caring,
Oh, wow.
very, very caring. But
That's
that
awesome.
statement, it shifted my work ethic because,
I love
yeah,
that.
because I never wanted somebody to say that about me, and in reality, I knew that I had the talent. I always knew that I had the talent, but I needed, like, encouragement, and so he
Mhm.
encouraged me at a time when I didn't feel very encouraged. But then I say now in my 30s, I'll say I'm like, the people that I meet, I call them my champions. They're not my mentors, but they're my
Right.
champion, as in, like, they champion you. They say your name in rooms when you're not there. They will have a strategy lunch with you to talk about where
Yes.
it is you wanna go. They make you feel like the things I'm trying to do are not impossible. And
Oh, I
I have
love
2 of
that
those.
for you.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That is so powerful. You mentioned Mrs. Wright,
Mhm.
like Mrs. Wright, Mrs. Wright, Mrs. Wright, and then it made me think in my mind, what were the Miss Wrights
Mm.
that you had?
Mhm, mhm.
Like what are the ones that you wish that you could rewrite in a sense
Oh,
because they
like,
were miswritten?
the people that I've met that I could rewrite, basically.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know, like, I guess it's hard for me to answer. I think more about it's like, you're talking about, like, if you were to do a loosely based character on yourself. Sometimes I think about life in that way of, like, if you were looking at back on your own story and the times when you
Mhm.
wish, "Oh, I wish I spoke up here," or, "I wish I trusted my intuition in
Yeah.
this moment," because, again, in your pursuit, you do meet a lot of it's just a part of it. You will meet the people that make you feel crazy or make you feel like you can't do it or make you feel like this is silly. And sometimes you do take on some of that energy. You may wear it for a month, you may wear it for a year, but you do sometimes uh, essentially pick up a piece of clothing and put it into your bag. And so those people I wish rather that I couldn't rewrite them, but I could rewrite myself at that time. And have
I love that, I
better
love that.
understanding of, like, that this is not serious. This is not it. This is like
It's not that serious.
yeah, like, don't
Because life's always evolving.
yes,
It's always evolving, so you can always rewrite, in a sense,
absolutely.
what that is.
Yeah, and you can and you,
Yeah.
like yeah, and you have to take the I always take it with a grain of salt. It's like I always tell people, I'm like, I love pitching. In pitching, sometimes people are gonna love your idea. They're gonna get it, like, off the bat. It's not even gonna feel like a pitch. It's gonna feel like a conversation. And then there's other times when people are not gonna get it. And it's really for you to have the discernment to say, are they giving me valid advice? Advice that I really think, okay, yeah, you know what, you're right. I'm not as clear as I thought I was. It's not as
Yeah.
structured as it needs to be. So you're right. This pitch is not quite it. Or is this person just not it? They don't get it. They don't get your
Right.
idea. You now have to have the discernment to be like, I have to move on. I can't take on what it is that this person is trying to give me. I have to kind of move on from it.
Mhm.
But I think only in doing a lot of pitching do you learn to do that, because it's like,
Right.
because you will think that if I pitch this idea to somebody and they really don't understand it, oh, I guess it's not a good idea. Oh, I guess it's not. I guess I should try to get them to understand it versus focusing on the person who does get your idea. Um, and
Right.
so I kind of see life in that kind of way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wish I could take like so much of your time and ask you more about that, but we have other questions. So, compare the setting of your earlier
Mhm.
years to the setting you have created now. What was the reason for creating those changes, and how did your setting add or subtract to your story?
Hmm. Yeah, you know what? I think in my earlier years, I probably didn't understand the the importance of environment for myself as a multi hyphenate, as an entrepreneur, as a solopreneur, as somebody just functioning in this world, in this universe.
Yeah.
Like the importance of your environment, like really feeling good in your environment, whatever that may
Mhm.
look like the things that you kind of need. It's like, for me, I'm like, I like fairly minimal, furniture.
Yeah.
Like I can't be in like a cluttered space, like a cluttered space.
Oh, me too.
Really don't function well in those kinds of spaces. And
Mhm.
so the times in my life where maybe I was staying with a friend and they have a very cluttered home, or even my own home may have just like piled up with stuff. I realized in those times that I like, if depression kind of snuck up on me, it was like a lot to do
Yeah.
with feeling very out of control of my environment and not being able to just
Mm.
like, okay. And so
Yes.
now, now I find, yeah, wherever, like, I live in Los Angeles, but it's like wherever I live, I like know myself really well. I like need very specific things. I'll be like, I need to be able to walk. I need to be able to see my space. Like, I don't want too many things. If it's not supposed to be here, I don't need it. It's like right now I have too many, like I have too much hair product. I like legitimately like don't know what I'm gonna do. Like
Shout out to Shea Moisture.
I have too much hair products here. Like I need to like get rid of this. And so it's like somebody else may love it. I'm like there. If I have a full drawer and then like a storage, I'm like I have too much product. But
Yeah.
nonetheless,
That's a lot.
I'm like, I'm very aware of like the things that I need to do. And I guess it's like to like add to that. It's almost like yeah, you kind of have to be a doctor for yourself. So you're aware of what it is that you need to do all the time and what
Yeah.
that looks like, and then what that requires for you to show up as yourself or as a functioning person. And so I realized in my early days of, like I said, of this journey of understanding myself, I didn't understand the importance of my environment or my sleep. I used to have an awful,
Oh,
awful,
yeah.
awful sleep schedule, where I was like a bit of an insomniac. I could not get to sleep. And
Oh, no.
though I was creating a lot, I was like constantly in my head. I had like a lot of ideas, a lot of things, but I wasn't sleeping. And at that time, I was like so stressed. I was so stressed about the work and about the things that I was doing. So I didn't have myself on like a proper
Right.
schedule. And now I would never do that. And now I'm like,
Sleep is so
yeah, like,
important.
I'm gonna get 8 hours no matter what. No matter what time I go to bed, I'm getting 8 hours. That's always what I tell people. I'm like, "I can go to bed at 3 in the
Yes.
morning, but you will see me in 8 hours from now. I'm not gonna see you in 2. I'm going to bed." So
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. I'm with you. I'm with you for that. Um, my other question is, do you ever experience any cliffhangers in your life? Or is there a cliffhanger that was in your life, and how did it turn out?
What do you mean?
Or are we still to be continued?
Oh,
Like, did something happen where it was like everybody was left thinking, they're like holding their breath to say, what's going to happen in the life of Andrea Lewis right now?
I would oh my goodness. I'd say it's to be continued. I definitely would say, yeah, because yeah, cliffhanger, that's interesting. I guess, yeah, I would definitely say to be continued only because I'm still in pursuit. So,
Mm.
I think, uh, cliffhangers can feel cliffhangers are interesting because depending on who's telling the story, the audience may feel like it's a cliffhanger. The writer may feel like I've wrapped it technically. I've gotten it to where I need it to be. It's up to you to now dream or decide or whatever it is, kind of thing. And I definitely don't feel like that in my life. So I'm like, that's why I'd say, yeah, I'm probably in my to be continued phase of my
And people are like, "What's gonna happen?
yeah, like
Don't wait.
what's next?
Don't make us wait 7 years like Game of Thrones,
Yeah, yeah.
please."
Yeah, exactly.
Do you ever find yourself censoring yourself when you create? And what does that internal dialogue sound like?
Oh, I censor myself a lot. I
I
censor
think we
myself.
need to.
Yeah, because I need yeah, I was gonna say because you need to, I used to not, and it was to my detriment. It was like I'd center other people, I'd center their thoughts, I'd center their worries, their fears, their comfort, and, last year, I really learned that I was doing that, and, it's an element of people pleasing for
Mm,
sure um
mm,
to take on the burden and feel like you are the one that has to curate something for somebody else, or make them feel as safe as possible, make them the main character in the story, and in reality you're the main character of your own story. So I find now that I center myself a lot, and the dialogue typically looks like trust asking myself how happy I am, like, how happy am I with this
mm.
interaction? How happy am I with what we're working on? How happy am I with this idea? How happy am I with the progress? And um and what would need to be fixed if I'm not that happy. If I'm feeling like, "Oh, I
Right.
don't know if I really like interacting with this person that frequently," or like, "What do I need to adjust?" And is it that serious? Sometimes you're having a moment. I had a moment like this yesterday where I was just not liking what I was experiencing, and and I
Oh,
was like
no.
feeling very like, "Oh, like, okay, what is it here that I'm not enjoying? And what am I feeling? Is this a real
Right.
feeling or is this a just a dialogue in my head? Like, am I, it's like
Mhm.
am I overthinking it? And if so, what needs to be adjusted so that I can stop doing that? So that I can get a little out of my head because maybe what you're telling yourself might not be the truth. But then there's also some truth to your body or your brain or your, just your wants. And so I that's usually what the dialogue is. It's just kind of listening and trusting those things when I don't feel like sharing, trusting that I don't that there's a reason. When I wanna just listen in on the Zoom versus pipe up with all my thoughts, there's a
Yes.
reason. Don't overthink it, and that's me centering myself.
Yeah. When you get that creative block, what do you do to overcome it? Yeah, how do you overcome what it is?
I go on a walk for one. I always go on a walk, like an immediate walk of some sort. And I trust my intuition to tell me whether I'm supposed to be listening to an audiobook or music. But the walk always movement um, removes my blocks. So if I'm
Mm,
not able to walk around outside or like on a treadmill or something, then I just do stuff within my home. Like I'll start to literally like be like, okay, it's time to like move in this house, as in
yes.
like put stuff away or go look through your whatever it's got to be.
Yeah.
But just do some kind of movement. I find the movement uh shakes it up, and
It literally moves
yeah,
energy.
it
It
shakes
moves the energy of
instead
it.
of feeling so
Yeah.
stagnant. And then if that's still not quite working, I like to think about truly like, well, okay, what is it that I'm trying to say? And sometimes it's just a simple,
Mm,
it's sometimes it's like instead of trying to think of like this grand idea or this really funny scene or this great moment, it's like just get back to the basics. It's like write out some notes about the character, write out some notes about your general theme, write out some notes about your goals, about what you just want this thing to look like. what you're hoping it
Mhm.
makes it evokes in people, and even that can kind of get your energy back
Yeah,
into the right space. That's what's worked for me.
I love that. I love that. So contrast how you dealt with blocks in your life when you started the career
Hmm.
versus where you are now. Because it sounds like you've been able to get your wisdom to this place. But is that what it looked like in the beginning?
Yeah, I guess that's probably the difference is now that like if I was to give you a prescription for me, that's what I would have in the prescription. Like needs water, needs to go on a walk when blocked. Like those are the things I would write out. Versus at those other times, like I said, I wouldn't have known myself. So like I had a season absolutely where I a lot of my ideas would come to me in the night. And so my sleep schedule was really not good. And I thought of it more so just like this is me. This is me the creative. But it was I was suffering in one other area. So even though yeah, I'm awake and I'm getting all this stuff out, I'm not disciplined. And I'm not treating
Right.
my skill set um like a weapon, like really using it in the way that it's supposed to be used, and having a discipline with it. And so though sure, I could write all night, but I'm waking up too early in the morning because I still have a whole day, and now I'm not looking my best, I'm not feeling my best, I'm not all of those kinds of things
Right.
at that time. So I didn't know how to essentially tap in. It's like uh, everybody should learn how to turn themselves on and turn themselves off. Everybody should learn that. It's a skill that we all need.
Agreed.
And like, no matter what side of the camera you're on, but you're going to have to meet people. So you should learn how to zoop and then zoop off. You know what I mean? And so I saw after a while my creativity in that same way. Like I should know how to tap into it when I need it. I should know when it needs to be shut down. And there was a time in back in my day when I absolutely did not. And so I experienced burnout a lot quicker. I experienced just like yeah, not feeling my best versus now that doesn't really happen to me. And so if I do, like I said, if I do feel a block, I'm like, I'm gonna go, I need some sun, I need to go out on a walk,
Yes.
I need to meditate or something, or maybe I haven't had enough water today. Like I'm very
Oh,
conscious
wow.
of how my body reacts to my gifts and putting
Yeah,
them
that's how your body reacts to your gifts. That's a quotable right there. Andrea Lewis says, pay attention to how your body reacts to your gifts. Gems, gems, gems.
together.
Okay. How do you handle the criticism around the things that you create?
I don't. I'm like, I don't look at it. I'm like, I was tell people, I'm like, I don't know. I'm weird on criticism, mainly because I'm like, I don't know. I think if you spend any time on the internet, you get to see how crazy people actually are, and the things that people criticize, and the things that people analyze, and all of that kind of stuff. So I always look at like, yeah, discernment is your friend in the sense of like there are some critiques that are valid, and then there's some that are really not. And you don't need to wear it. You don't need to take that on. And it's not about being completely like delusional. It's just about knowing what is to serve you and what isn't. And so if, it's like my friends and I talk about this a lot that are actors. It's like, do you read like reviews? Do you not? Like, do you look at stuff like that? And it really
Right.
varies from person to person. I could care less about a review. My job is to perform the character, do my thing on set, feel really good, be a very professional, and serve the story as best as possible. If someone else now in looking at that art just really doesn't like it or doesn't get it, that's not for me. I don't need That's not going to help me. You know what I mean? I'm like, what's going to help me is maybe working with a coach that I say, "Hey, I didn't feel so great playing this, or I didn't feel as loose as I wanted to feel." Those types of things are very different to me than like taking on critique. And
Mhm.
I always look at it as like I have this discussion a lot. Like I'm not one to I could care less about like seeing myself on screen. And so I like love the art and the work of being on screen and what that takes to be on screen, but I don't then, like,
Sure.
want to sit in a theater and, like, watch myself. Like, that's not my
Oh, I
joy.
see. Yeah, that's not your thing.
And I
Okay.
have this discussion a lot, especially with, like, male actors. I don't think this is all, but this is the ones in my life say this, where they will be like, "Well, why wouldn't you wanna see yourself?" Like, it's like watching playback. It's like being an athlete and watching back your games, and I actually completely disagree. I'm not gonna play this character
Mm.
again, like, unless this is a
Ah,
series. So, why would be watching myself play a very specific character in a very specific story help me for the next role?
that is so true. I never thought about it like
I'm like,
that. Ex Listen, Andrea Lewis drops gems, people.
but I'm also kind of like, I'm like, yes, I watch myself in self tapes. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
where if I get to know, okay, wait, your body's not positioned quite right, or your lighting could look a little bit better, or hey, I don't think this is an accurate representation of you. That's my playback. That's me looking at myself and being like,
yeah,
how do I adjust? But the character I played in a Christmas film last year is not gonna be what I want to play again. So I've
right.
already played her.
It makes sense.
And so that's where I'm like, no, I have to be in a really specific headspace to want to watch the thing. Most of the time,
Right.
my joy has already happened. My joy came from making the thing. My joy came from seeing it come to life, from the conversations I get to have with the people on the set, from the friendships I get to develop from like the director or the writer or the producers. That's my joy. The completed project, seeing it, yay, and then I'm now done. And so I'm like, yeah, this is just what I know about myself now in hindsight, and kinda, yeah, like, looking back on certain things, I'm like, yeah, those things are not always for me.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Tell me, why do you do what you do?
Oh, I honestly have no choice. I really have no choice. Like, I always tell people, I'm like, if I'm not creating, like, film and TV projects or just, like, big ideas, the creation, starts to show up in all these other places on me. Like, it will like, I'll all of a sudden need to be baking every single day, or now I'm like, now I'm doing all these photo shoots. Like, it just keeps forcing its head on me, and I had
Wow.
to, like,
From the beginning, it sounds like.
yeah, like, all my life really, but I really learned that, like, I had a relationship, like, 10 years ago, and I, at the time, was a little stagnant in my life. I couldn't figure out where I was headed or
Mm.
what I was supposed to be doing. And I remember, like, I used to have, like, dreams that of, like, painting, like, really bad dreams.
Oh, wow.
Like, I was constantly in this dream where I had to create, and I was so frustrated, and my partner at the time, like, he had to go out and get me all this paint stuff because he was like, "You're, like, really stuck. You're, like, feeling really, really, yeah, like, stuck." And so that's
Block.
I'm like, "I'm a creator." I'm, like, genuinely a creator, and so I have no choice but to be doing the work that I'm doing because, that's they just are here. They're, like, tapping me on the shoulder. The stories wanna come
Yeah. Yeah, that's the mental health piece. I think for people who have to
out. Mhm.
create, they can't survive if they don't.
Yeah, and it's weird to say that to some people because not everybody kinda understands that, but I actually do believe we all have that. It just is a matter of you finding what that is for you specifically, because it could be
Yeah,
being in
yeah,
community, it could be motherhood, it could be being a coach. Everybody has that thing to them. But I have
yeah.
just known that about myself, that, like, I have so many stories, and I want to see the stories come to life, and so
Mhm.
if they don't, then they like bubble up in me and they try their best to come out, like quite literally try their best, and that could look like a whole heap of stuff. And so I now know that I'm like, in order to utilize this tool as best as possible, like, you have to do the thing so that you point yourself in the right direction versus, okay, I
Mhm.
gotta do, because now I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, no, I'm a creator, and my creative ideas will force themselves consistently, and that's why I'm like, I have no choice. I have no choice. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, well, we're coming to the end of our conversation, but I wanted to I know it's so fast, right? I'm going to give you like, I don't know, 6 to 7 rapid fire
Okay.
questions. You don't think about it, you just give me what comes off the top of your
Yep.
head. And I know you said you watched Inside Out, so this is related to Inside Out the movie.
Okay.
Which character from the movie is your most predominant feeling when you're creating?
Oh, easily joy. Easily. Like that's
I knew that was going to be here. And I would say that after meeting you, that is 100% true.
not
Okay. One word to describe your writing process.
fun. That's what I would say.
Oh,
Because
joy and fun. That
yeah,
works.
mainly because I'm like, I love writing. I love having the idea and like the spark of it and so it really it's like I play music. Like I said, I go on a walk. I write in many like I have voice notes. I've got little scraps. I've got little notes. I've got too many documents on my computer that say like I have to now start to put the date that I'll be like, okay, July 16th, this is the day, this is the idea. And then I eventually put it together. And I actually look at it kind of like a diary process. I really love looking at all of my ideas and see and trying to remember because I put little notes, like little asterisks of like what inspired this thought. And something about it makes me feel like, oh, you're like it's like you're putting together a puzzle and it's fun. It's fun for me. I know writing is hard. So for some people, they'd probably be like, what is she talking about? But in reality, I'm like, I enjoy this. I enjoy the process of like figuring it out and pulling it together and trying to come up with a thing. So that's why it is fun for me because I think about it as like imagine you get to do this work that's like so imaginative and so like forces you to constantly be using your brain to create something from scratch. I think it's fun.
I think I'm enjoying that process too, actually. I think I'm similar to that. I like the research of a character. I like to
Yeah.
find out, would this person really do this? What kind of things yeah. So I enjoy that too.
Yeah.
But what's your go-to writer's block cure?
I mean, I mentioned this before, but definitely a walk. That's definitely my go-to. Cuz it gets me out of my head. And so or I would say sometimes too like watching stuff, like watching movies, watching a TV show, like and not that it like because somebody who maybe not in this process may hear that and think, "Oh, does that mean like you're copying or it's something?" But it's like, no, but sometimes looking at other stuff like sparks an idea for you or sparks a thought or even asks a question that maybe you haven't asked yourself in the process of like,
100%.
oh, wait, what am I trying to say? Or what is the solve here? Or what is the conflict? Like, those kinds of things. So sometimes if I'm not able to go on, like, get moving, then it is just like, just put something on that
Yeah,
you want to see. Yeah.
agreed, agreed. I
Mhm.
feel symmetry. What inspires your creativity the most?
Oh, my friends hands down
Oh,
inspire my creativity. Yeah, I find I enjoy interesting people, and so I frequently have lots of ideas after hanging out with my friends.
that is so good. Um, what do you celebrate? How do you celebrate finishing a writing project or a creative project? How do you celebrate?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if I ever do. I'm a frequent treat myself kind of gal, so like I probably treat myself because I treat myself all the time. So that's why I'm like,
So
I'm
good.
probably indirectly celebrating and don't realize because and typically, I guess you know what? Yeah, I probably don't do much celebrating because I'm constantly thinking about the next phase. So once you're kind of like through your drafts, even as draft one, draft two, or however many drafts you end up doing, you're on to the next phase. I'm usually on to the next phase before I even finish.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm usually like already thinking, okay, like who do I got to talk to? What do I need to do to get this off the ground? How do I need to execute this? And so you don't really give yourself an opportunity to celebrate per se. If anything,
Mhm.
maybe you give yourself a bit of a reward for just like a day of hard work. But
Right.
but like I said, I treat myself all the time. I'm, like, always like, "Oh, I'm gonna go get a cookie." Like, I'm always that kind of
Listen, you're not lying because I see how you celebrate on your IG.
Yeah, so I'm like, I'm constantly in celebration of
That is
of my
amazing.
life. So it's like, maybe that's why I don't think about it. Yeah.
Okay, 2 more questions. What do you thirst for the most in life?
Um, what do I thirst for the most? I think I thirst the most for ease with my creativity.
Mm,
I genuinely thirst to be in a place where the things that come to you, it's not a question of if or when they'll happen. They just are. They're just happening. And so I think to I think about ease, like, probably
mm.
fairly consistently of like what that looks like
Love
for me.
that.
So yeah.
I love that. Okay, last question. What are some of the blocks you are fighting right to remove right now, if any?
Blocks that I'm fighting to remove right now. Um I don't know. That's a good question. I would say my brain wanted to say sometimes thinking about your initial thought about your resources
Yeah.
sometimes sometimes can feel a little daunting if you have something that you really want to get done and you think, okay, how do I get this done? And it can feel sometimes like a block if it's like essentially how do I the big question I always have to ask myself is more so how do I get others to understand this? How do I get others to see what it is I'm trying to make? And so that can feel like a block because
Yeah.
not every idea is, every idea basically has to get to me dwindle down into like this log line or like this this 30-second pitch, like this one sentence. And sometimes you're thinking about a universe. Sometimes you're thinking about like a story that has multiple chapters and endless characters and endless seasons and all of this stuff. And so to have to explain it to people in this one way in order to get them to give you the money, talk to the next person, all of that kind of stuff can feel like a block because it can feel like I don't want to have to explain this. I don't want to have to
Right.
make this so small. But
Mhm.
that's why I say resources because sometimes in my head I will have to I'll almost feel like I'm being a little negative before I can be positive, and the
Right.
negativity is a block. And in reality, I'm like, no, you always have the resources, you always have the stuff, you can always get it done. You just have to like sometimes take a step back. Yeah.
Honestly, if I could live inside Andrea Lewis's brain, I think I would be a complete individual. You got it all set up. You have a beautiful imagination. You have a great support system. You're constantly inspired. You place yourself in environments that give you what you want from the universe. Kudos to you for living an unblocked life for the
Thank
most part.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank
that
you.
is amazing.
I know, I'm
Amazing.
trying my best. That's why I'm like, yeah, when you said it, like my first thought was resources, but I'm in a space with that right now that I'm like, there's things I want to do or that I'm working on doing rather, and I might not have all the funding for it, I might not have all the stuff for it, but I'm also finding the more I work on it every day, the more I have all the things I need.
Yeah,
So that's why I
exactly.
was
Just
like,
keep moving forward.
yeah, the first block was really just me thinking that I don't have these things. And in reality, I was like, as soon as I was like, wait a second, well, I could kind of do this, this, and that. I was like, oh, I'm fine. I have the stuff. So,
You are totally fine.
yeah. Yeah.
So what's next for you and how do people reach you?
I always tell people they can follow me on Instagram, my name at Andrea Lewis. But this is my like I'm in my gardening season. I'm in a planting seed season right now. I'm like many pitches and many development projects and many things like that, which is exciting and is kind of a part of the creator's journey of like you're just you're planting seeds. you're you're
You're
planting
constantly in cultivation mode.
yeah, you're just planting and that's something you have to enjoy just as much is like recognizing that you're like I'm in planting mode right now. Like the work
Mhm.
of development, the work of, I was just doing this, of like the practice of a pitch with the group that I'm working on the project with, and like us practicing and like getting through the motions and going through everything is like a lot of work. And but just as rewarding as when we're gonna make it, to be quite honest with you. It's just
Right.
different muscle. So yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much. Are there any last words, things, something that you wish you could share with other creatives about even like that process of pitching and what the blocks are there?
Yeah, I don't know if there's ever, the thing I think about often is more like, when you're a creator, is thinking about like what the story is you're trying to tell, how you're going to tell it, and what you have currently in front of you to tell it. Because I find in
Mhm.
the creative journey, especially with the online space, it feels all the time for people like you, like, oh, what they have is better than what I have, or I wish I had what they had, or why can't I have the opportunities of that person over there? And most of the time, it's like we don't even know what their journey is. We don't know what they had to do. It's also okay to admit somebody's ahead of you in their
Right.
process, that they know, they got a bigger network than you do, all those kinds of things. But I think most of the time I like to look at it as like, just break it down the same way you would your story or your characters. What do you need for real? For real.
Mhm.
What do you
I
need for
love
real?
that.
Not like in the grand scheme, oh, I need $100,000, and I need, like, yeah, there's a many things I can tell you I need, but what do I need for real? Sometimes I
Right?
need an ear. Sometimes I just need somebody to read something. Sometimes I just need somebody to give me an idea of the best way that I could pitch this. Like, sometimes
Mhm.
that's all you need, and it's simpler. And the simpler you think about it, the more you feel good in your journey. And I often think with creatives, it's like, that's just, to me, what helps you to get ahead is feeling good in your journey, not desperate and not
Yeah.
sad and not scared and not worried, but just good about the process that
Yeah.
you're in. So yeah.
I love that. Cheers to that. Thank you for being on the writer's blog. I wish you had one. Maybe we'll send one to you. We'll have to get
I
your
have my
address.
gigantic water. I'll be like,
Okay, perfect.
I'm on
So
board.
cheers. Thank you everyone for listening to the Writer's Block, and thank you to my sponsors, TRF Media. Big up yourself, Mello, and to the extraordinary Thirsty AF by CH Hot and Wines, available at thisislawade.com. And if you want to reach me, I'm at This Is LA Wade Inc. or thisislawade.com. And for more information about creativity, go to the writersblock.podcast on Instagram. And let's help you remove some of those blocks from your life. Happy writing. Take care. Bye, everyone.
You're listening to the Writer's Block Podcast with LA Wade.
Hi, this is Andrea Lewis with the Writer's Block Podcast. My writing tip is write what you know. Be inspired by your real life and the people in your life, and just write the stories that you know. And that is my writer's block tip. Hopefully, that you right now in your journey are unblocking all of the things and writing all of the stories. Bye.